It's time for Defending and Commending the Faith with Joe Mott, inviting the atheist, agnostic, and skeptic to examine for themselves the evidence for the Christian faith. We are all limited by what we do not know and by the things we think we know but are not true. Dr. Joe Mott earned his PhD at LSU and was a distinguished math professor at Florida State University for 38 years, helping to write 3 math textbooks and authoring over 30 research articles in math. He is now the host of this radio program, Defending and Commending the Faith. Here is Joe Mott.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to the program. Followers of Christ are still being called into action for defending and commending the Christian faith. Let's begin by reminding you of the definition of truth. In Aristotle's book Metaphysics is given his famous definition of truth, saying, "To say of what is that it is, and of what is not that is true. While to say of what is that it is not, or what is not that it is false." This formulation highlights that truth is what corresponds to reality. Truth is telling it like it really is. Truth depends on accurately reflecting what actually exists and what does not. Does truth matter or not? This question is not some deep philosophical question requiring hours of solitude in a monastery's library before arriving at an answer. Yet postmodernism, the predominant worldview of secularity, now poses its answer that truth and morality are relative. Moral relativism's answer is that we have no objective standard by which we determine right and wrong. One person's opinion is just as valid as another's. Morality is simply a matter of personal preference, which results from one's cultural, ethnic, or sexual orientation. Postmodernism continues its confusing pronouncements by saying that truth is also relative, saying there is no such thing as absolute truth. Really? We demand truth from other areas, including from loved ones. No one wants lies from a child or a spouse, or from physicians. When I am sick and go to a doctor, I prefer a narrow-minded physician. I want a doctor to properly diagnose my condition and prescribe the right medication so I can get well. If a stockbroker advises me, I want him to be narrow-minded and tell me the truth about investments. All of us desire the legal system to promote the truth about convicting the guilty and vindicating the innocent. When I fly on an airplane, I prefer a narrow-minded pilot. I don't want some voice coming over the intercom saying, "We are going to be broad-minded today and land in this cow pasture." Moreover, I prefer a sober pilot and a safe plane. When I listen to the news media, I hope they will be truthful about their reporting. But that hope is fading fast. The major television networks, ABC, MSNBC, CBS, CNN, and the radio network NPR have all bought into the liberal agenda. Even Fox News, I am afraid, is ambivalent. Newspapers like the New York Times, Washington Post, and Los Angeles Times have joined the bandwagon of fake news. It is hard to find someone you can trust. I like Victor Davis Hanson, Peter Schweizer, John Sullivan, Bill O'Reilly, Epoch Times in terms of political commentary. My preference is that road signs, medicine bottles, food labels, and reference books be truthful. Advertisers, teachers, and politicians, I expect to provide truth in their communications. We all know some things. For example, 2 plus 2 equals 4. It does not equal 3, and it does not equal 5. At exactly 212 degrees Fahrenheit, water boils. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, water freezes. In every area of mathematics, medicine, science, archaeology, accounting, chemistry, geography, or geology, there are areas that cannot be compromised. Yet, when it comes to religion and morality, we are told that the rules don't apply. How can it be that the rules apply in other areas of study, but not in morality and religion? Today, there is a new tolerance, which insists that we have no right to disagree with the liberal social agenda. This new tolerance claims that all beliefs and religions are equal. The supreme virtue today is to be open-minded and non-judgmental toward those who are different from us. But when Christians voice their convictions regarding biblical morality, then those who preach the new tolerance message are regarded as intolerant. It's an intolerant kind of tolerance. Christianity in the present miasma is perceived as the religion of intolerance. The question to ponder is, on what basis do they get the idea of intolerance and determine what is right and wrong if they sincerely do not believe in absolutes? When you begin to consider such questions, you realize that moral relativism is a self-defeating belief system. Why do we demand truthfulness in every other area of life except that which pertains to morality and religion? Our secular culture has blindly embraced the claim that absolute truth does not exist. The prevailing attitude is that it is all a matter of opinion. And who are we to judge anyway? If truth is relative, then no one is ever wrong. Okay, we make judgments every day in every way. Some skeptics will quote this scripture, "Judge not that you be not judged," Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. This passage does not teach that judgment should never be made, but it instructs us on how to judge. Jesus' point was that a person should not be habitually critical or condemnatory of a speck of sawdust in someone else's eye when he himself has a plank, a strong hyperbole for effect, in his own eye. Such action is hypocritical. Though judgments are sometimes needed, those making judgments must first be certain of their own lives. Furthermore, when seeking to help another, one must exercise care to do what is appreciated and beneficial. We should never cast our pearls to swine, Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, or entrust holy things, which are sacred, to unholy people, or, in other words, dogs. This is taken from Philippians chapter 3, verse 2. Contrary to what is being taught in schools and what postmodernism believes, truth is not relative, but absolute. All truth claims are absolute, narrow, exclusive, and excludes their opposites. That is also true for both religious and moral truth. In their book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, the authors Norman Geisler and Frank Turek say, there are many other truths about truth. Here are some of them. First, truth is discovered, not invented. It exists independent of anyone's knowledge of it. Gravity existed prior to Isaac Newton's discovery of gravity. Truth is transcultural. If something is true, it is true for all people, in all places, at all times. For example, 2 + 2 = 4 for everyone, everywhere, at every time. Truth is unchanging, even though our beliefs about truth change. When we began to believe the earth was round instead of flat, the truth about the earth didn't change, only our belief about the earth changed. Beliefs cannot change a fact, no matter how sincerely they are held. Someone can sincerely believe the earth is flat, but that only makes that person sincerely mistaken. Believing something doesn't make it true. Not believing something doesn't make it false. Truth is not affected by the attitude of one professing it. An arrogant person does not make the truth he professes false. A humble person does not make the error he professes true. All truths are absolute truths. Even truths that appear to be relative are really absolute. In short, contrary beliefs are possible, but contrary truths are not possible. We can believe everything is true, but we cannot make everything true. Steve Hale, author of the book Truth Decay, writes, "Truth is not a subjective matter of taste, but an objective matter of fact. Truth is truth no matter where you live on the planet. Those who claim that truth is in morality doesn't really matter take a different stance when someone treats them immorally. For example, they may claim that lying isn't wrong until someone lies to them. Moral relativists don't want their spouses to live like relativists. A wife doesn't want her husband to be relatively faithful. Most male relativists expect their wives to live as if adultery were absolutely wrong. Yes, truth in morality does matter. It undergirds everything we do. It affects us financially, socially, psychologically, spiritually, and physically. False ideas about morality lead to immorality. In fact, one's success in life often depends upon moral choices in areas such as sex, marriage, children, drugs, money, and business dealings. Steve Hale continues, but what about religious truth? Some think that religion and morality should be isolated in their own separate categories, as if there is no connection between the two. The fact is, they are inseparable. Morality comes from religion. Therefore, religious truth is of supreme importance, so we'd better get it right. If it involves teaching kids to be suicide bombers and fly planes into buildings, then it matters. If it involves training kids to believe everyone who is a non-Muslim should be terrorized and killed, then truth and religion matters. If, on the other hand, the Bible is true, then everyone's eternal destiny is at stake. You owe it to yourself to find the truth and act on it, because truth matters. Allow me to close this episode by reminding you, exercise daily. Walk with God.
Thank you for listening to Defending and Commending the Faith with Joe Mott, a production of Wave 94 Radio in Tallahassee, Florida. If you have any questions or comments for Joe, please forward them to Doug Apple at Wave94 at this email address, dougapple@wave94.com. And be sure to join us every Monday evening at 6:45 p.m. on Wave 94 and subscribe through your favorite podcast app. Defending and Commending the Faith with Joe Mott.